Good morning, my friends. Welcome to today's episode of Happiness After Codependency. I'm your guide, Marshall Burtcher. I help you come back to knowing, loving, and living who you are. So from there, you can go on and create relationships that satisfy you, friendships that bring joy into your world, and do things that matter to you. I mean, you get to define what happiness and well-being is for you, and that's part of knowing, loving, and living who you are. That's ultimately how we learn. That's how we break free of codependency, because we no longer need codependency to meet our needs, understand who we are, and create connection in our world. So today is episode 2 of my mindset series. We're going from mindset to body belief. And in today's episode, we're going to build on yesterday's episode. I'm going to give you a 3-step process that assists you in reshaping your body beliefs so that your mindset shifts automatically rather than having to do the typical, I'm going to try to change the way I think approach. But before we get to that, I need to share this out to the community. The community is your safe haven, here where you can find tools, guidance, and support in your journey back to yourself and out of codependency and narcissistic abuse. The link is above on Facebook, below on YouTube, and if you're on the podcast, just go to freetheself.com, click the community link, and join us there. Also, I am on Spotify, Google, and Apple Podcasts, so you can follow me there as well as on YouTube, Instagram. So yeah, and here on Facebook. So I'm going to share this out now. Good morning, Rita. Nice to see you. Let's click the buttons. The buttons are clicking, and here we go. So typically when we are trying to shift the way we think, the common approach is to force a different point of view. So, I've got to think differently. I have to push differently. Or it's like, we usually approach it with an affirmation approach, like, I love myself. Then we sit there and we try to make that happen. We try to force it into ourselves. I really love myself. Come on, feel it. So that's the top-down approach. That's the mental-only approach. The way to shift these kinds of beliefs, it requires a mental and somatic combination or psychosomatic experience so that your body gets on board and starts like, hey, yeah, I agree. I believe in this. I'm willing to be open to this. I'm willing to follow it. That's where we get the big shifts that we're looking for, and that's where the dialogue in our head, the mindset that shows up, becomes something different. Good morning, Pamela. It's nice to see you. So how do we do this? Well, there's a little tool, a little practice I teach in almost every single one of my courses called ALI. It's a technique I developed a number of years ago and then formalized into this process. What it stands for is acknowledge, legitimize, and integrate. What this does is it gets your mind and your body into an agreement. And it does that by allowing whatever is showing up to be valid, legitimate, and real. This is how we start to shift things. So I'll give you an example of how this has worked in my life and how I've seen it work in students' lives. So for a very long time, I have one of my core wounds was the wound of inadequacy. I'm an inadequate person. I'm not able to do this. I'm not able to do that. And that produced the mindset and the inner dialogue of I'm stupid and inadequate and will never succeed. When I started applying ALI to this, paradoxically, it doesn't work the way you think it does often. When I started acknowledging, legitimizing, and integrating this. So it's like, okay, yeah, of course I feel I am inadequate. I was rejected. I was called names. I was ostracized. I was left alone. People didn't understand me. I thought, maybe there was something wrong with me. Of course I feel inadequate. Now let that land. Because what's going on in that is I'm acknowledging what I feel and what my experience is. And then I am legitimizing. I'm letting it become real and valid to me. That's what legitimization means. That you make your perceptions, your feelings, your experiences, your thoughts real to you, real and valid to you. This allows the body to stop fighting it. It eliminates resistance and attachment to it. It ends analysis of it. and allows you to go through integration, which means, yeah, that really happened to me. This is something I've legitimately experienced. And there's a shift that happens in our identity at this point. Rather than identifying as the thing, like me identifying as inadequate, I identify with my experience. I went through an experience where I felt inadequate based on the feedback I was getting. This shifts the mindset and it shifts the body belief, because it's like, okay, well, maybe I am not inadequate. Maybe I just felt that way, and it opens up to something else. Now, we don't even have to find out what that is because it shows up for us anyway. It's like when I do ALI on this inadequacy wound, what emerges is peace and joy and sometimes humor, because I'm like, this is absurd. I mean, I have built 4 companies in my life. 2 of them did fail, but I learned from them. I'm very accomplished in certain things in my world, such computers and coaching and course design and things like communication and all that. I'm not inadequate. I can see other evidence to it. So I can then acknowledge and legitimize that. I acknowledge that I've succeeded. I've acknowledged that I've learned from failure. I've acknowledged what I have accomplished. And then I can legitimize that. So, of course I have done these things because I am smart. I am capable. I have the ability to do this. And I can let that land. This further shifts that root conclusion, that body-based belief that I'm inadequate. It moves it towards, I'm adequate. I can allow that to land and integrate, which then changes the way my mind talks to me, or the mindset that I'm living with. This is the power of ALI, and you can use it on anything. You can use it on shame, guilt, fear, fatigue, inadequacy. You can use it on things you're succeeding in. Like, of course I feel this joy and this excitement. Look what I'm accomplishing, or look what I did. Of course I feel proud of myself. Look at that. It gives us a chance to really anchor and orient towards ourselves. So I'll give you a little background on why ALI is designed the way it is. So in codependency, we tend to deny, resist, and push away what shows up. We deny our feelings, our experiences, our reality. We push away good and bad feelings, as we put them in those categories, put that in quotes. We ignore what's really going on, whether it's positive or negative, because we're fixated in a fantasy. We're trying to make a particular fantasy become real, and so to do that, we have to ignore what's really going on. Well, ALI shifts that. It brings us out of denial and into acknowledgement. This is really happening. This is what's going on. It can be a bit confronting that way, because now we're getting sober as to what we feel, what we think, what we perceive, what's showing up for us. That allows us to move into that legitimization step. So rather than pushing it away, we make it real to ourselves. I'm real. What I feel is real. What I'm perceiving is real. What I'm thinking is real. These things matter. They hold innate legitimacy and validity. Nobody else has to agree with these things for them to be real. They're real because they are real. They're some would term a brute fact. That's what is right now for me. And that allows us to integrate rather than ignore what's going on. I can deal with what's showing up, whether it's pleasurable or painful. This gets us back to our body, back to ourself, and it also helps us liberate from codependency. Codependency, from my point of view, is a survival strategy. It's a method of meeting 3 specific core needs people have. Their needs, so that can expand into other needs, their identity, and their need for connection. It supplies that through people-pleasing, through not rocking the boat, through trying to control, fix, or enable others, through avoiding conflict, and by, chameleoning and trying to be the ideal person for them. It liberates us from that method of getting those 3 needs met by helping us come back to sobriety and then make better choices. So we move into self-respect. Then we can be choosing how our needs are met owning our identity, and building healthy connection. Because those three needs are fundamental. We need those. Those are part of being human. How we get them met's where the challenges. Codependency is a how. Self-respect is a how. Passive-aggressiveness is a how. Needlessness is actually a how, being ultra-independent, even though it doesn't work. Things like that. So ALI, acknowledge, legitimize, and integrate, can set you free. So let's say you're working on an affirmation, like, I love myself. What you can do with this, you can acknowledge what you feel in response to the affirmation. So like, if I ask myself that question, there is a little pushback to that. It's like, really? Yeah. Can I? Am I a little safe there? So I acknowledge that. Like, I feel a little unsafe acknowledging that I love myself. Then I can legitimize it. Yeah. Naturally, I feel unsafe acknowledging I love myself because people have mocked me for it. People have rejected me for it. People have told me I was selfish and narcissistic for loving myself. They made fun of me for it. Now my body's beginning to relax and open up to loving myself. I feel it more now. That's the integration piece. So you can plug in your affirmations that way by responding to by using ALI on the response you have to the affirmation. This is how we shift body states, or body beliefs rather, that emerge into different mindsets. So there you go. To use ALI, you do need a training on it, and that training is actually linked in the description above on Facebook, below on YouTube, and in the description in the podcast. It's a direct link to the ALI practice PDF. In that PDF, we'll link you to a training video on YouTube where you can learn how the tool works and then begin applying it to your daily life. So go for it. Give it a shot. Let me know what you think about it. So just as a heads up, some cool stuff is coming. I'm going to be starting 5-day challenges that give you an opportunity to go deep in a particular aspect of codependency and come out with a self-respecting, empowered position from that place. So I'll be announcing more information on what that is and how to enroll starting next week. The first one is slated to begin in December, so we've got a little time. But I'll give you a heads up so you can get in on this opportunity to get 5 days of free live training from me and to make a massive and distinct change in your life quickly. So I'm excited about this. It'll be a very cool approach to helping you guys make big changes in your world. So there we go. My friends, remember that you're worth knowing, loving, and keeping. Go gently with yourself as you move through your work, because this is difficult stuff sometimes, but there's also the reward of feeling more at peace, more whole, more happy long term. And that's what I live with. That's what students and clients I work with live with. And it's what we deserve to have in our world. So codependency isn't a life sentence. Narcissistic abuse's impact on your world is not a life sentence. You can be free. You can be happy again. So go gently with yourselves. I will see you guys in our next episode. Bye-bye.